At the end of the day, we were so close with Russia always. We were like brother and sisters. And the last things you would think that your sister will attack you or your brother. So, I mean, I personally thought it would never happen. And my dad and my mom, everyone thought like it's just something unrealistic.
Nina Ramzan came to live in the UK before the Russian invasion of Ukraine and has now welcomed her mum and helped others find accommodation here. This is Writer's Mosaic, What We Leave We Carry, the series that tells the true life stories of migration to the UK.
I'm Nina Ramzan. I'm currently live in Wales, in Cardiff, but I originally came to Cardiff 10 years ago from Ukraine. I was born in a small town on the west part of the Ukraine, which is called Kuznetsovsk, but now it has new name as Varaj. At the age of 16, I moved to Kiev, which is the capital of Ukraine, and I carry on studying and receiving my higher education. My parents, they are originally from Russia, graduated the university in Moscow, and then by that time it was Soviet Union, and they were sent to Ukraine to build nuclear power station. So this is where I was born, and my city is like a twin town as a Chernobyl. It's kind of very, very similar city, and we have 5 of those cities in Ukraine. My town was maybe like 5-6 hours away from Chernobyl, and of course we were all affected by Chernobyl. My dad actually still lives in this town, but my mom moved to Cardiff just 3 years ago when the war started in Ukraine. I graduated from a medical university in Ukraine, so I became a doctor in lung disease and tuberculosis. I was fully qualified doctor in Ukraine, and I even managed to do my PhD work in Ukraine. I will be living in Ukraine, but there was always another part of me which encouraged me to learn English. Like from the early age, it was involved in my life, and I was actually very self-motivated to learn it through my life. UK was something like somewhere in the atlas you can only hear or you can only read about, or somewhere in the TV, but you would never as a child imagine that. I would never consider that I would go. I think I've been lucky through my life, because from the year 5 in the school, I had a teacher who I really admired. She was an English teacher. And when you admire people, you kind of follow them. And I think from that time, English became a part of my life. So it was like my favorite subject, even though I wasn't like the best student in the class. But I always knew like, oh, I want to be like this teacher. I used to go to English school in Kiev. I was learning through my life. England never been my like number one goal, but it was like I knew by learning English I have more chances to explore the world, so I can travel and speak the language that most countries, like in Europe, you can communicate. Of course, I mean, I knew about London and about, there's Scotland, there's Wales and England. I have fantastic time in Ukraine. And I think if I would never met my husband, I probably would stay still in Ukraine and keep working as a doctor. And by the time I had to move to UK, I was like 1 year hesitant, shall I really move or not? Because I was also hoping that maybe husband will come and stay with me in Ukraine. I went to Dubai with my friend on holiday. I met my husband on the holidays. When I met my husband, he had to leave next day to England. By that time, what we did, we only exchanged our emails. We didn't even exchange our phone numbers. So by the time I got back to Ukraine, I received email from him saying like it was nice to meet me. So and then we start communicating, and my main purpose was like, oh, I can practice my English with him and I can improve my English skills. So it was actually, I remember I was telling him like I read the article about dinosaurs and I wanted to share it with him, and he still, even now, he would keep mentioning me to me like, oh, do you remember dinosaurs you mentioned? So yeah, I kind of found him as the source to practice my English. And then in 2 months' time, he came to Ukraine to visit me, and which was a big surprise. So yeah, and then it's kind of like all grow up that we become a couple. And in 1 year and a half, he asked me if I married him, and I said yes. And then I still was kind of hesitant, is it a good time for me to move or not, because I've been working on my PhD work. And also, yeah, it's always hesitant, shall I stay home, how my life is going to look in Ukraine. So basically, yeah, then we came to the point that I got pregnant and I just had to leave. Otherwise, my son will be born in Ukraine, and it will cause lots of difficulties to us to travel, you know. So we just decided that this is the point where I need to come to UK. My husband is British. His parents are from Pakistan. He's like a second generation of Pakistani, I would probably say. But whenever you ask him, he would probably always say, I'm British. I think initially my parents, and especially my dad, probably wasn't very positive about the marriage, I would probably say. I mean, but it's only because the lack of their understanding that actually this kind of marriage can also work. And of course in Ukraine we don't have multicultural society, so like anyone who is with different nationalities always taking like something like it's already something different, probably is not going to work. But I mean, we had lots of conversation within the family, and then like I had to brought my husband to the small town where my father used to live, so to kind of introduce him to the village and just to say, yes, here is he. And I still remember like some neighbors were coming to our house just to see who came, and like and you know, like, but it's only because yes, he's maybe a little bit like darker than we are, his skin, but it's never been a big issue. But we had lots of conversation to work on. And to be honest, I'm very sure if you ask my husband now how his parents reacted on the marriage with the Ukrainian, I think they had lots of conversations as well. And but yeah, at the end of the day, we just decided that we will be together, and we really love each other, and like nothing can stop us. And at the end of the day, if the marriage will not work, we can always, you know, have the way how to work on it. But so far 10 years we are together. Sometimes it's challenging, I have to admit, it doesn't work like ideally, but I think any families have their own challenges in terms of like, you know, cultural things, especially if it's cultural mixed couples. Because like, even though my husband was brought up in the UK, there is still some kind of, you know, like man has to be dominant, or women has to look after the house, and like man has to bring money in the house. It's all manageable, but sometimes it can come across, and what we do, we just start communicating, and I can see how we can solve the issues. I have been in the UK a couple of times before my husband asked me to get married, so I already knew where I was going. I mean, by that time, my husband used to live in London, and I used to visit London quite regularly. And of course, when you are in your late 20s, coming to London, you know, what can be better life? But yeah, it was always like a romantic holiday every time you visit. I moved to the UK in a high tone of love and everything, romantic story, you know, and what can be better to kind of to come to the UK, get married. So yeah, I mean, my movement was on a very positive. It was 2015, and I was on a 7 months pregnancy. I wait as long as I can, but yeah, to make sure our son has a British passport and being more protected here. Once I arrived to London, we had to go to Cardiff. And first year we used to live with my husband's parents. And then we bought our own property and we moved. It was very difficult to start with, because of course when you came to new country, pregnant, you don't have work anymore, you don't have your car anymore, you don't have your parents anymore, you don't have your friends anymore, you don't have anyone, only your husband. So it was really, really difficult. But I think my parents-in-law were very understandable that I had to have lots of support by that time. So they were looking after me like I was as a princess for them. So it was difficult emotionally, but again, I always had the backup with my husband and my parents. My parents-in-law would really keep mentioning from the early days that our boy has to be Muslim and we have to take him to mosque. He has to learn the Quran. But I mean, with all my respect to my parents, we always decide it's between me and my husband. So we always have conversations how we want our son to be brought up. But at the same time, we always give choice to my son to choose what he wants to do. So I wouldn't say like, oh, you shouldn't do Quran, or you shouldn't go to church, or you shouldn't go to mosque. We don't force things, but we are very open in either way he decided to go. Like if he would like to go to mosque and meet his friend there, or like if I take him to church, my husband would never say, oh, why did you take him to church? But we are very, very open. Our son is brought up in both traditions. I found Cardiff very, very welcoming place to live. And especially when you have young family, it's very easy to raise your child here. Of course, I had some difficulties, like the language barrier was really, really difficult. And whenever I had to arrange anything, I had to go to my husband and ask him to help me, constantly help me. Whether you have an appointment for a child, for yourself. And actually, at some point I also felt like I was quite a huge loan for my husband. Like only after maybe 2 or 3 years after like our son got older, I just realized, oh, maybe it was really harsh on my husband. Like all the support he had to give me. It's probably something you don't expect when you dating somebody from different country. You know what I mean? Like it's like you don't know the systems. The systems are completely different. I remember I used to go to supermarket and I couldn't recognize any food. I didn't know what to bring. I will go to supermarket, pick up like bread and come back because like everything is new and you don't know what exactly you need to pick up. Because we are based in Wales, I found locals people are extremely, extremely kind and very open to migrants. I mean, this is my personal opinion. Like, I never come across that I felt I'm from different country. I didn't know any Ukrainian and any Russian speakers when I came to the UK. However, when I heard first time somebody speaks in Russian in supermarket, and I already had my child by that time, I actually ran for them to say, I speak Russian. What is your name? I came here from Ukraine. And it was actually a gentleman with his family. And we had a very short conversation. And with the years, I could recognize him because he lives not so far from me. But it was interesting how I was chasing him to at least find somebody who can speak my language. Obviously now the situation completely changed, and whenever I go to Ukraine nowadays, you can hear predominantly Ukrainian language in any part of Ukraine, and it is understandable. But of course, because as I mentioned earlier, my family are Russian. My main language always was Russian. I used to go to Russian school in Ukraine. We learned a little bit of Ukrainian, but it's never been like number one language in my curriculum. I can speak a little bit Ukrainian. I can understand everything in Ukrainian, but my dominant language is Russian. In Ukraine, we also have another language which is called Surgic. It's not official language, but it's like when you combine Russian and Ukrainian together languages. So this language is an unofficial language, but this is what population is using. If you ask my dad today how is he Russian or Ukrainian, he would say, I'm Ukrainian with Russian heritage. But it's only because my father lives in Ukraine for 45 years now, and it is, and after war in Ukraine, it's like people really want to support the country what is close to them. And yeah, they all have Ukrainian passports. And yeah, I think if you ask my dad and my mom, they would say they are Ukrainians, but with Russian heritage. By the time I moved here 10 years ago, I had hardly met any Ukrainians. And only when the war started, then you could see the big influx of people. I never been like the person who was connected to Russian community, and don't want to have anyone else. So I will always want to have as many multinational friends as possible. So, and then one of my best friends, she was actually also she was a refugee from Vietnam, but she was brought up in Switzerland, and her husband from Wales. So we met here. So she was one of my best friends for a while. It was really, really difficult emotionally being in a new country without your friends and your parents. And especially when in Ukraine we are quite detached to our parents. We are quite close, and to leave them, it's always quite... we don't leave them in the way how I notice British people leave. Once you're 16, you have to leave the house. So in Ukraine, we do live with our parents until you got married. But then even you got married, we still have very close bond with our parents. So of course, for me coming here, it was really, really difficult without my parents. And of course, my friends and colleagues. But yeah, time heals everything, and you kind of you build new life and adapt, meet new people. I never hosted any hostility and any racism, but maybe it's only because I am based in Wales, and I found this country very welcoming for migrants. But again, I don't know. I never lived in England or any other countries in the UK, so I can't talk. But the general idea, I personally never ever come across. However, when I was trying to get employment and never been successful, I thought maybe somehow it is related, maybe because I don't speak language at the level that is required. People would never come back to you to say why you didn't get past the interview. But this is something I was always thinking. When I came to the UK 10 years ago, I was very, very ambitious, and I thought, in 2 years' time, I'm going back to my doctor career. They might be very interested, in my experience, and also my PhD work was on the treatment of the tuberculosis. So I thought it would be something that, would be appealing for local professionals. Actually, if you do want to start working in medical sector, you have to do tons of exams, and my diploma wasn't never accepted. I had to go to higher level of English and also lots of medical exams. By the time my son went to school, the COVID started. Yeah, and then in COVID, I applied for a job, and it was successful. And I think this is where my kind of career, my medical career went down. But then I started to work with on the NHS as well, but in the vaccination center. I applied a couple of times for a nurse positions, but in the UK, doctor can't be nurse, which is very strange. I applied a couple of times to work as the care assistant. I attended few interviews. And again, I never been successful. And then one of my friends advised me that maybe you shouldn't put that you are a doctor from Ukraine in a CV, because you you kind of overqualified. So when the COVID hit, they were looking for anyone who speak the language and happy to work in the call centers to call people, to invite all the population in Cardiff, like every citizen to have vaccine. I was lucky to get this job because, like, you know, when you're going on different interviews and you're never successful, you really lose confidence. I think now, by looking like back 10 years ago, like what happened if I were in Ukraine and who I become today in Ukraine. But to be honest, again, like the work I have now at the moment in the UK brings me so much happiness. Life in the UK gave me so many opportunities to grow for myself as a person. I try not to focus that the country put me more down. Like I'm still striving here, and I'm really grateful for everything what I achieved here. One of my colleagues, we left Ukraine at the same time. She moved to Germany. And when she told me, like, even though she wasn't a qualified doctor, but she was allowed to be around the doctors in the hospital, it helped her a lot to build the knowledge about the system, about, you know, to improve her language. And I think it's just the system sounds more welcoming for doctors from different countries to get the knowledge and to get the language. Like, while for us, we were like, okay, you learn your language independently, and whenever you are ready, you come and we might get a job. It's different approaches. And I think this is something like I always felt maybe it should be somehow improved, and how unfair it is. I think my active social life started when I started meet people who speaks my language. So it helped me a lot to integrate here in the UK, because at the end of the day, you meet people who already been here in the UK for a while. They might give you good advices, what to do, what not to do, where to go, where to buy, where not to buy. It's really helped me personally to start like my integration in the UK. And then when my son started to go to school, I met some other moms and dads there who also become a friend. And at some point of life, my husband told me, Nina, you need to find something what you really like to do. And one of my friends invited me to go to salsa classes. And since then, I'm still attending the classes. Not salsa anymore, not bachata, but I attend kizomba classes, which is in Cardiff. Sometimes I travel around UK to attend different festivals. This is my passion now. Kizomba, it is African dance, which is originally came from Angola. The main reason why I like kizomba is because you meet such a multicultural society there. It can be like from Africa, it can be from Asia. Everyone who knows kizomba and who loves the music. Even though it's traditional African dance, it is something that keeps us all together. I still cook Ukrainian food at home. I wouldn't say I do it very often, but I still do it occasionally. And the main reason why I do it is I want my son being also kind of get used to this food, which is like from my own country. Sometimes we still cook Pakistani food in the house, which like my mother-in-law taught me a few recipes, so sometimes I cook it here. The main ingredients in Ukraine cuisine is like potato, vegetables, so you can always buy it in any country. I occasionally cook borscht, which is very famous Ukrainian kind of soup or stew, which has lots of like vegetables and meat. I cook vareniki, we call it like dumplings. So it can be also with different stuffing. I cook golubtsi. It's like, again, cabbage stuffed with meat and rice. When I first heard about invasion, it was at night when my friend called me and said, Nina, the war started. I said, like, what do you mean? It was lots of speculation that the war will start. And we never ever believed it will. At the end of the day, we were so close with Russia always. We were like brother and sisters. And the last things you would think that your sister will attack you or your brother. So by the end, they've done it. We all thought it would never happen. I mean, I personally thought it would never happen. And my dad and my mom, everyone thought like it's just something unrealistic. So when I find out about it, of course, it was all shock for us. We start calling our friends, families. I mean, all in tears, all in shock. And what is next? It was really, really heartbreaking to hear like your friends calling you and crying, and they don't know what to expect. I think for me, maybe it was a little bit less as close, only because I've been living in the UK 8 years, and but it's still my pain even today. Whenever I get calls from Ukrainian friends, we always like, when this disaster is going to stop, and we still have no answer to this question. When the war started in Ukraine, I thought how I can help personally and what I can do here in the UK. So I started looking for volunteering jobs in Cardiff. I was also looking in Bristol, and there wasn't many. But what I did found that there wasn't applications as a caseworker for Ukrainian refugees. I applied for the application in Red Cross, and I put all the notes down that I am doctor from Ukraine. I speak Russian, understand Ukrainian. I think I even mentioned I can speak Ukrainian. The next day I received it wasn't successful. And then it was again something like, I thought, how come you are a doctor from Ukraine who lives in the UK for 10 years, all the experience I already had, and you're still not successful to get this job. So I actually went to the park, and but actually by that time, because like lots of people knew I'm from Ukraine, people were reaching out to me to say, "Oh, is your family okay? We really feel we really with you, with your family. We really support Ukrainians. Not only me, but everyone was giving their love. They were sending me and support that they are with Ukraine, and they feel our pain." So I met some lady in the park who said that he knows somebody who is looking for Ukrainian lady who been in the UK for a while, because like then I can kind of see, I already know like UK culture, but also I know Ukrainian culture. So yeah, and then this is how I came to the Citizens UK. Through our organization, we can ask people who might be interested to support Ukrainians and who can be interested to host Ukrainians in their homes. I can very proudly say we managed to resettle minimum 1,000 people, Ukrainians. Now, whenever I go out, you can hear lots of Ukrainians around. And my mom came to the UK as well once the war started, and she's now based in Cardiff, and actually maybe 5 minutes drive from me. Initially, British people helped us a lot to feel welcome in the UK, and I still feel lots of support from them. However, sometimes it is also very surprising then when some of my friends will ask, "Oh, is war still in Ukraine?" I'm like, yes, it's still, and it's not even getting better at all. It's even worse, because now lots of like towns are under attacks, and like lots of civilians are dying. There is no much information in the media about Ukraine's war. So I think this is something also what's kind of like, doesn't people watch the news, like, or is it not much news there? Like sometimes it's really, really surprising when people say that, when they ask you if there is still war in Ukraine or not. My mom loves being in Wales. I think she will never ever come back. But I think she actually very active person here. She has been studying English from day one she arrived to the UK, and now she's also learning Wales, and she's the most successful Welsh speaker from all of us in the family, which is like very positive and very inspiring. She's always very, very appreciative for the support she receives here, because as I said, even now there is lots of hubs available for Ukrainians where they can come and get support. But of course, for her, moving to the country in an older age is quite difficult to get an employment again. For me personally, when my mom came, I was very, very happy to have her here, and she used to live with us 6 months in our home. Then she moved to private renting. But now we have lots of concern about our dad, who is still in Ukraine. Actually, my dad had a plan to come to Cardiff this weekend, but he found traveling here is quite challenging. I always have it in my mind that whenever the war stops, I really would like to go home and spend a decent time there. I personally believe I'm fully integrated now here in the UK, and this is my home, and this is where my family is. But there is always part of me which takes me back to Ukraine, and I want to experience life in Ukraine. I don't think I would go back, but you never know. I think Wales is very similar looking place as in Ukraine. It reminds me about Ukraine a lot, especially if it's spring, summertime. 1 hour you are next to the water, 2 hours you go to mountains. It's not mountains, but it's still hills. Because I was brought up in a small town, maybe this is why it's kind of very close to me. And I like nature, I like animals. It's so picturesque when you travel around the Wales and you can see the ships around and all the greens. And it's just beautiful, and it does remind me about Ukraine a lot.
Nina Ramzan was talking to Tim Finch.